We all remember the first time someone broke our heart. Usually, it wasn't because the love was truly deep, but because it was the first. And what that person wasn't just someone we liked, but someone more experienced, someone who just knew how to manipulate us. That's when the wound stuck around. That's why, like so many episodes of The Simpsons, Bart's girlfriend ends up being something more than just a funny story. It's a story about confusion, embarrassment, and that precise moment when, without realizing it, we leave a bit of our childhood behind. In 1989, television changed forever, or at least our idea of what a cartoon could be. Up until then, cartoons had just one clear mission: entertain kids and, if possible, toss in a moral lesson. But that night, in Fox primetime slot, a yellow-skinned family arrived to break the rules. It's not that The Simpsons were for adults in the usual sense. They weren't violent or overly explicit, but they weren't aimed at kids either. They were for adults in a different way, because they felt real. They were a family buried in American reality. Low-paying jobs, marital tension, underfunded public schools, churches with sermons but no real faith, junk TV, and a government that didn't work well. It was all there, animated but laced in irony and humor. That made a lot of parents uncomfortable, because the humor touched what was sacred: authority, father figures, religion, and the idea of being a good student. Now, from a distance, we can see that it was just a harmless cartoon, one with a pretty solid message about family, even. But back in the 90s, a lot of us had to watch The Simpsons in secret. The show didn't just break the idea that cartoon characters had to look a certain way: yellow skin, four fingers. It broke something deeper: the idea that cartoons had to educate. Instead, it offered something more honest: a cracked humor reflecting the absurdity we'd constantly bump into in real life. The episode we're talking about today, Bart's Girlfriend, aired in 1994. By that point, The Simpsons weren't just a hit, they were the pop culture, the topic you brought up with your friends at school the next day. In the US, Bartmania had taken over, back then far above Homer, who would later become the show's central figure. Bart was the icon, the troublemaker, the little devil. His image was everywhere: t-shirts, comics, toys, video games, mugs, pajamas, backpacks, and even his own book. Time magazine even put him on the cover and called him Person of the Year. It wasn't really true, more of a satire. But back then, that didn't matter. Bart had already left the realm of logic. He belonged in the collective imagination, and the myth that Bart was Person of the Year still lingers today. Bart didn't obey, he didn't shut up, he didn't pretend, and that's why kids loved him. And parents didn't. The Simpsons weren't just a cartoon. They were a city, Springfield, that could have been any city, and a house we entered every night without knocking. Welcome to my channel. I'm Bandido. If you've seen these videos before, thank you for coming back. And if this is your first time here, I'm glad we crossed paths. This channel is a space where I talk about movies, series, books, or any cultural movement I find meaningful. Not just for the stories they tell, but for what they reveal about us. Here, I use storytelling as a mirror, as a tool, and as a compass. Welcome. Episode 7 of Season 6, Bart's Girlfriend, starts with a bold question. One that almost sounds impossible. What would happen if Bart, the troublemaker, fell for someone even worse than him? The idea came from David Merkin, the showrunner of The Simpsons at the time. The writers agreed that this wouldn't be a story about young love. It would be a symbolic reversal. The predator becomes the prey. Bart, who is always in control, outsmarting priests, teachers, and even the police, suddenly doesn't understand what's happening. For the first time, someone is manipulating him. That someone is a new character, Jessica Lovejoy, daughter of Reverend Lovejoy. Jessica is the perfect disguise: polite, well-dressed, soft-spoken, all smiles, but underneath, pure mischief, a twisted mind wrapped in sweetness. To play her, The Simpsons brought in none other than Meryl Streep, the most Oscar-nominated actor in history, with 3 wins under her belt. that Meryl Streep. By 1994, The Simpsons had become a cultural touchstone, synonymous with smart, biting entertainment. And she got to star in one of the most iconic episodes, because beyond the celebrity guest, what stands out is that for the first time, Bart is outmatched. And in that moment of confusion, something shows through that we'd never seen so clearly before: his innocence, not expressed in words, but in a sad look and the quiet realization that he has been used. The episode begins with Bart and Lisa playing cowboys and Indians with their friends. The fun is interrupted when parents run everyone off to the church. Bart, bored as ever, zones out during Reverend's Lovejoy sermon, until his daughter, Jessica, steps up to read the next one. Bart is instantly stunned by her beauty. She seems like the perfect good girl, polite and touchable. Bart tries to talk to her, but she brushes him off. That's when Lisa warns him, "Bart, you're the devil, and she's too good for you." So Bart tries to behave. He tries to impress her by acting like a model citizen, and nothing works. Nothing works with this girl, he complains. Frustrated, he gives up and pulls a prank on Willie, the gardener, who's wearing his Scottish kilt. Bart ties balloons to it, making it fly up. And just then, Jessica sees him. She sees the prankster in action and invites him to dinner at her house. Bart agrees, but dinner with Reverend Lovejoy quickly spirals into chaos. He uses bad language and ends up getting kicked out. Jessica, though, she's intrigued. She grins and says, "You're bad, and I like that." And that's when everything shifts. Jessica reveals her true self, sweet on the outside and poison on the inside. She's not the innocent girl she pretends to be. She's manipulative, calculating, and dangerous. There's a brilliant moment here. Lisa, giving Bart advice, stays calm and rational, but then daydreams about the bad boy she saw at the library. The contradiction is subtle but powerful. The next day, Jessica keeps in her good girl act in public, but in private, she pushes Bart even further. If it's a secret, she says, it's even more exciting. And then she kisses him. And Bart, instead of being thrilled, looks unsettled. He has the girl, but it doesn't feel right. He's not in control. Jessica grabs his hand, and while he's still moved by the moment, she uses his hand to pull a fire alarm, and the two run off together. Bart tries to break up with her. He tells her he doesn't want this anymore, and Jessica doesn't argue. Instead, she steals the church collection money. Naturally, everyone blames Bart. No one believes him, not even when he says, truthfully this time, that he's innocent. All of Springfield turns at him, and Jessica, completely unfazed. She smiles and says, "Thanks for not ratting me out. That was very sweet," and then adds, "But if you do, no one is going to believe you anyway." Bart hits rock bottom, and then Lisa steps in. Once again, she becomes the voice of reason. She gives a sermon at church, hoping to make Jessica come clean, and it doesn't work. Jessica stays stone-faced. So Lisa just tells the truth directly. Jessica was the one who stole the money. Everyone rushes to Jessica's room. The stolen cash is there, and Reverend Lovejoy tries to deflect, saying maybe Bart planted it, but everyone knows what really happened. Still, no one apologizes to Bart. They just move on, like nothing ever happened. And the ending is brilliant. Jessica gets punished, made to clean the church stairs. Bart, still carrying some feelings for her, offers to help. And he closes the episode with a line that I love. "I'm a little wiser and a little less naive." Jessica doesn't show remorse. She also says what she has learned. I can make men do whatever I want. And in the final scene, that bad boy from the library, the one Lisa had fantasized about, shows up on his bike and rides off with Jessica. Bart stays behind, alone, and says quietly, "Wait till you see how bad I clean these stairs." Bart's girlfriend is a brilliant episode, and part of something that cannot be repeated. It belongs to what many call the Simpsons Golden Age, that run from season 3 to season 8, when the show still focused on everyday life, before the absurdity got dialed up to 11. Sure, we all laughed at Homer going to space or becoming a professional boxer, but those were the episodes that pushed the show into fantasy. For me, The Simpsons shines brightest when it stays grounded in the American life, when it's still a cartoon, but one that you could recognize. The best episodes revolve around small-town fractures, a marital fight, school drama, parental pressure, sibling jealousy, the fear of not fitting in, and that was their superpower, turning the smallest thing into a mirror, making a kitchen table conversation unforgettable 20 years later. And Bart's girlfriend is exactly that. No time travel, no over-the-top action, just a confused boy, a watchful sister, a town that judges without knowing, and a girl who hides poison behind a smile. Homer and Marge barely show up, and that's not an accident, it's a choice. Because here, the emotional center is not the adult couple, it's the bond between Bart and Lisa. There are plenty of episodes where they fight, but the ones that hit hardest, the ones that we remember, are the ones where they take care of each other. Here, when Lisa gives one of her usual sermons, she shifts. For a moment, she drops the idealism and just says what matters. It was Jessica. Then she stands by Bart. She still challenges him, but from a place of love. She helps him not because he's right, but because she sees he's hurt. And in that moment, where she says nothing, just sits behind him for a while he scrubs the stairs, there's more truth there than in 1,000 speeches. The irony is, this episode is often remembered as the one where no one learns nothing, but I don't see it that way. The writers, smart enough to avoid moral lectures, chose not to punish or reward anyone. They just showed what happens when love gets messy, when people hurt each other without meaning to, and when, like in real life, the only thing left to do is to keep going. No answers, no neat takeaways, just another experience. Made better, thankfully, by laughing about it. We'd seen Bart fall in love before. In Season 4's episode New Kid on the Block, written by none other than Conan O'Brien, Bart falls in love with his new neighbor, Laura. She's older, confident, charismatic, and Bart is just a kid with no real chance. It's the episode that gave us that iconic scene, the one where Laura rips Bart's heart out, and while it's still beating in her hand, she says, "You won't be needing this." It was a one-sided love, the kind that hurts but doesn't fully break you, because yes, Bart liked her, but there was never really a chance. Laura was already dating Jimbo Jones, and as painful as it was, at least it was clear. Bart couldn't do anything about it. But in Bart's girlfriend with Jessica Lovejoy, the situation shifts. This time, Bart is chosen. Jessica picks him. She chooses him precisely because he's bad. And that's when it all begins. Bart, who usually controls the chaos around him with small acts of rebellion, who mocks everyone and plays by his own rules, suddenly doesn't understand what he's feeling. He's being reciprocated, and that doesn't bring him joy. It freezes him. It makes him clumsy, because deep down, he doesn't enjoy being with Jessica. The episode pulls off something rare for an animated series. It shows the dark side of the first love. It explores that hidden, rarely discussed place where the desire to be liked becomes anxiety, where your heart races not just from excitement, but from fear. And it does it all without drama or tears, just with humor, silence, and eyes that don't know where to look. In most episodes, Bart represents chaos. He's the kid who always gets away with it. The one who mocks Principal Skinner, who prank calls Moe's bar. He's the agent of disorder, the rebel, the joker. The kid who laughs while everyone burns, the little devil. But in Bart's girlfriend, the writers flip the roles. This time, Bart doesn't cause the chaos. He suffers it. Because in this episode, someone else is more dangerous than he is. Jessica Lovejoy isn't just wilder. She's smarter, sharper, more calculating. And the most dangerous part, she can pretend to be good. Bart, who usually reads the rules just to break them, doesn't know what to do with someone who seems to have no rules at all. He gets trapped in a relationship he doesn't understand. And when he tries to get out, then it's too late. When the entire town thinks Bart stole the church money, the story turns bitter, but never melodramatic. That's the genius of it. It's not a cartoon version of manipulation. It's a subtle, funny portrayal of something very real, especially during childhood, when the need to be loved clouds your judgment. The innocence of a boy faced with emotional manipulation. And Bart is not perfect, but in this episode, he's naive, and that's why it hurts. What's remarkable is that the Simpsons never moralize. There are no speeches, no big lessons. Jessica doesn't get some life-changing punishment. In fact, she gets away with it. Even when she's caught and punished, she manipulates Bart once more. But the truth gets revealed, and that's enough. The truth by itself strips her of much of her power. And back in 1994, no one talked about toxic relationships. We didn't even have the language to describe them. But this episode already showed us the core of it. What happens when someone exploits another person's affection without an ounce of remorse? That kind of power, the kind wielded with a soft smile and a gentle voice, doesn't need a whip. It just needs the opportunity and someone more innocent. And sometimes that someone is anyone, even the kid who seemed untouchable. Jessica Lovejoy is charming, but on a symbolic level, she's a miniature femme fatale. Dangerous, seductive, and for Bart, completely captivating. Most of all, she's unapologetic. She doesn't manipulate with strength, she manipulates perception. She doesn't control the world, she controls how the world sees her. She knows exactly what people expect. The Reverend's daughter, the sweet smile, the girl who wouldn't hurt a fly. And she leans into that image. But beneath the bow and the dress, there's a razor-sharp mind. And that's the tragic part, something we see far too often in real life. Appearing to be a good person is more effective than being a good person. Jessica understands the language of adults, and she uses it. She knows a sigh can erase suspicion. She knows a soft phrase can shift the blame to Bart. And when she's finally caught, there's no guilt, no tears, just a pivot, a new target. The final scene shows her turning to look to the bad boy from the library. A new prey, a new game. Jessica is not looking for love. She's pure temptation, and the most dangerous kind. The kind disguised as innocence. That the Simpsons managed to build this in 1994 without drama or exaggeration is proof of how smart the writing was. At a time when other shows tried to teach values, The Simpsons revealed truth. In this episode, Bart does plenty of mischievous things. Like always, he pranks Willie, runs off with Jessica. Still, we feel for him. Why? Because evil is relative, and in this story, someone else is worse than him. Jessica places Bart in a role we recognize, the anti-hero. The one who breaks rules, yes, but still follows a code. And in modern fiction, we love these characters. Walter White in Breaking Bad, Tony Soprano, or Michael Corleone in The Godfather. Flawed, broken men. Sometimes outright villains, but they look better when they are surrounded by monsters that are worse than them. We root for them because they have limits, however twisted, and more importantly, we see their pain close up. We understand the wound. And Bart, inside his small cartoon universe, shows us that same pain. That's why, in the end, he does not become the villain. And we, the audience, walk away hoping Jessica does pay, even if it's just a little, because some forces are strong enough to defeat even Bart Simpson. Let's take a moment to talk about Lisa Simpson, because in this episode, Lisa, like so many times before, is the voice of reason. She's the first to see the truth, the one who sees past Jessica's charming smile. She's not fooled by manners or family background, and she's the one who restores order when all adults fail. But Lisa isn't some unshakable moral pillar. She's a child, and as a child, she also has desires. She feels shy, she feels envy, she has contradictions. That's why at the end of the episode, when Jessica walks away with the bad boy from the library, we know it hurts Lisa too. She doesn't approve of what Jessica did, but deep down, part of her admires it, or at least she's a bit fascinated by that lack of accountability, that dark magnetism that lets someone be seen, desired, feared. Lisa doesn't want to be Jessica, but maybe, just maybe, she wants to be seen like Jessica, capable of rewriting the rules. And that's the nuance that makes this episode great. Lisa isn't just the moral compass. That other desire, the desire to be seen, to be wanted, and to have a little bit of power, that desire pulses too, and it matters. Reverend Lovejoy represents, at least on the surface, moral authority. He's the leader of the church. He preaches forgiveness, offers guidance. Supposedly, he knows it all, except when it comes to what's happening under his own roof. Jessica is his daughter, but more than that, she's the product of his blindness. While he focuses on correcting the world, the thing that needed his guidance the most grew wild right in front of him, just like so many things we avoid looking at. And the problem isn't just the Reverend, it's all of Springfield. When the church money goes missing, no one questions anything. No one investigates. They just point the finger at Bart again, because it's easier to blame the usual suspect than to ask the hard questions. And the hardest thing of all, admitting that we were wrong. And when the truth comes out, when it's finally revealed that Jessica did it, no one apologizes. No one says sorry to Bart. Life just keeps moving, as if nothing happened. No one even thinks of apologizing. And honestly, Bart doesn't really need it. That quick forgetfulness, just as fast as the rush to judgment, is one of the most human and most tragic behaviors that we have. Bart's girlfriend is about the first love, about childhood shadows, but it's also about a hard truth. We judge quickly, correct slowly, and conveniently forget when we are the ones who got it wrong. Humans are unfair, and in a group, they are even worse. Bart Simpson has been a lot of things. The class clown, the agent of chaos, the archetype of the rebellious kid. But he had never been the innocent one in the story. Not until Jessica Lovejoy, the Reverend's daughter. Jessica isn't just his love interest. She is his shadow, his dark mirror. She also mocks authority, also causes trouble, also breaks the rules and laughs at religion. The difference is that Bart is straightforward, and Jessica pretends. She manipulates, and that's where tragedy lies. Bart's desire for Jessica, like many of our strongest desires, comes from something irrational. Classic first crush energy, where you want someone's approval without really knowing them. And in life, just like in The Simpsons, sometimes what you reach for is exactly what breaks you. Jessica embodies an uncomfortable truth. Evil exists in childhood too, even when we don't yet have the words to name it. Compare the three children at the heart of this episode, Bart, Lisa, and Jessica, each acting as individuals, to the adults around them. Reverend Lovejoy, Marge, Homer, and really the whole town of Springfield. The adults move like a herd, following their first impressions, prejudices really, rather than facts. Everyone sees Jessica as the model child, polite, sweet. Even her parents, who actually know what she's capable of from the very start, still act like she's perfect. Her mischief escalates as the episode progresses, and it's no accident that her final act targets the most sacred object in the town, the church offering basket. Symbolically, that basket represents three things. First, the faith in God. Second, Jessica's respect for her father, Reverend Lovejoy. And third, the communal trust of Springfield citizens, which is the only reason the offering basket works at all. And to top it, Jessica uses Bart as a scapegoat. She lets him take the fall, and the cruelest part, she does it with an innocent smile. If we look at it through the lens of Christian tradition, in a single act, stealing from the offering, Jessica breaks 6 commandments. Love God above all things, don't take the Lord's name in vain, honor your father and your mother, do not steal, do not lie, and do not covet your neighbor's goods. That's a remarkably efficient sin, and it's the one that sets the entire final act in motion. One of the most interesting part of this episode is its ending. What stands out for me is that the good people don't exactly win. Bart ends up cleaning the church steps. He doesn't get the girl. He doesn't even get an apology. And the counterpart, the evil, Jessica, walks away, free once again with a new boy to manipulate. But just before the episode fades out, we get the real ending. Not the one that happens out in the world, but the one that happens inside Bart Simpson. Bart says a line that made me smile. Wait till you see how bad I cleaned these steps. And with that, the whole episode shifts, because Bart hasn't become a saint. He's not a martyr, not a victim. He's still Bart Simpson. In the final scene, he's doing Jessica's punishment, cleaning the church steps, and still, he's not bitter. He's ironic. Something has changed, though. He's no longer in love. He's no longer lost. Now, he understood the game a little better, and most importantly, the illusion is gone. He sees Jessica for who she is, not who he hoped she would be. For a kid like Bart, that kind of awareness is a massive step. The episode doesn't make him better, it makes him a little bit more complex. It leaves a small scar, a reminder that even when everything goes back to normal, he's not exactly the same. And in The Simpsons, a world where no one ages, where time never really moves forward, a moment like that is about as close to real growth as you'll find. There's something that still amazes me every time I rewatch this episode. It's narrative efficiency. Bart's girlfriend is only 22 minutes long, and in that short time, the writers managed to build a solid emotional dynamic between Bart and Lisa, introduce a new and complex character who would become iconic, Jessica Lovejoy, flip the protagonist role, criticize religious authority, call out a hypocritical community, show a dysfunctional relationship, and close with a subtle but powerful emotional shift, without ever saying, here's the moral of the story. They do all of that without a single preachy moment. What lingers isn't hope or tragedy, it's irony, the same kind we run up into almost every day. This is a story where no one really learns anything, no one apologizes, life just goes on. And honestly, that feels a little too familiar. What's curious is that this kind of cynicism doesn't push us away, it brings us closer, because it doesn't feel like a cartoon, it feels like our world. A world where injustices doesn't always get fixed, where the liar smiles and walks away, and where the one who loves sincerely is left behind, alone, cleaning the steps. And that's why, decades later, this episode still holds up, because it lets you see something you already knew, something real, but couldn't quite find words for it. And sometimes that's the best kind of wisdom, not the one that teaches you something, but the one that simply holds up, like a mirror. And if you want to help this channel keep going, subscribe, hit the like button, or leave a comment telling me what topic you'd like to see in the next video. That truly makes the difference. For today, that's all, compadres. Thanks for watching.